Destination Nightmare, the B-Movie Podcast.
The naughty cheerleader. The naughty freaking cheerleader. Also known as What's a Nice Girl Doing in a Place Like This or something.
Something like that. That was a song, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a song like that, but it was actually, this movie was based on a book. Wow.
Yeah. It's apparently, yeah. I can't say it in German, but the original name is How Did a Nice Girl Like You Get Into This Business?
And of course, this all stemmed from the day that I posted a little newspaper, and they didn't call it the naughty cheerleader, did they? They called it like, nice girl?
Yeah, nice girl with the Island of Lost Women. Or something
Island of Lost Girls and Nice Girl.
Nice girl. But it has a picture of Barbie Benton, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, who was Hugh Hefner's girlfriend for a while.
Yeah.
And did you notice that Hugh Hefner makes an appearance in this movie? Broderick Crawford's in this. Lionel Standard's in this. I mean, there was a couple of other people that I recognized, and I go, "What are you guys doing in this thing?" Klaus Kinski.
They probably hung out at the mansion, and he called in some favors, you know.
But the thing was, this is supposedly like a West German thing, but they actually have a scene in Miami. That's definitely Miami where she's going there, and then there's Klaus Kinski there at the end, and then it's like,
this was filmed in Scranton, Philadelphia.
It was filmed in Scranton, and the Catskills too, right?
Yeah, the Catskills, because I live in Pennsylvania, so I'm familiar with the look. New York, Philadelphia, Boston,
Miami,
Rome, and Monte Carlo. So
they actually spent money on this POS to make some kind of a hard to understand. I mean, when Klaus Kinski comes into the picture, I could hardly understand him at times. I go, "What are you saying?"
And he was speaking English.
Real bad English sometimes, but and then
the version I watched, every once in a while, the voiceover or the dialogue would go into German.
Yes, I actually went on a website and found a better one than the one on YouTube, but it didn't help. It looked better, but it didn't really help. But yeah, every once in a while you're sitting there, like when she's in the motorcycle with the guy, and all of a sudden he's like, Klaus Weinstein, you know, and I'm like, what? And then she goes, "Okay, honey, let's go." And you're like, whoa. I thought maybe like, you know, I thought I was losing my mind. But am I hearing like German voices in my head? Like, you know, like,
oh, God,
I'm telling you, man.
And it would actually make the film more entertaining, which is not in much.
No. And then like, you know, when she in the beginning of it, when she's like, you know, and before she starts off on all her adventures, she's got her boyfriend Ronnie, and the guy who dubbed him had a German accent. I'm like, what the hell? Everybody else has an American dubbed accent. He sounds like, jawohl, Barbie.
I have to go to the baseball game
Exactly. I'm like, what?
Oh, God.
We watched this movie, so you out there don't have to.
Yes, and please.
We're taking the hit for you, you know. So, you know, beware. You know, it is on YouTube if you dare. You know, if you really want to punish yourself, you know, I mean, imagine a West German dubbed sex comedy with no nudity and Barbie Benton in it. And, you know, everything's implied and it's not funny. Then you got the naughty cheerleader or whatever other titles this thing has. Nice girl or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it probably ran under so many different titles at drive-ins.
And you know, that other movie that came before on the newspaper ad, Island of Lost Girls, there is an old movie from '63 called Island of Lost Girls, but man, can you imagine if you go see this and it's like, hey, Barbie Benton's in this, I'll go see this, and the first movie is like some 1963 black and white kind of adventure movie. You're like, what?
What am I watching?
And then you go, well, the next one is going to be great because Barbie Benton's in it and it's a sex comedy and then there's no nudity, there's no nothing. And I'm like, and bad comedy and like old washed up film actors. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. Lionel Standard was the admiral in the bus.
Yeah.
So what the hell is an admiral doing on a bus, on a Greyhound bus? You know what I mean? Who gives her $100? And then at the end is Broderick. I see Broderick Crawford. I'm like, really? And it's like, well, yeah, Barbie, would you do my son? I guess you wanted him to do.
Yeah, I wanted to make him a man because he was all shy. And then afterwards, the kid's walking out all cocky and everything.
I'm not lying to you. Like about 30 minutes ago, I was sitting there. I go, "Oh, please end the movie, please end." And it kept going. I'm like, "Oh!" And then she married the count, the young count, and I'm thinking, "Okay, this is good. Oh no,
It's still going."
Oh. Because you're not gonna. There's no payoff. There's no TNA. There's no nothing. There's just
nothing
lame. It's just lame.
Yeah.
But besides that.
The only one shining example is what an incredible actress Barbie Benton is.
She is. She does. She has many expressions, and she's very pretty. She's great to look at. She's cute as a button. She tried her best, but she could not. She's been in other movies. She was in Hee Haw.
Yeah, she was on Hee Haw and Playboy After Dark.
Yeah.
And and she was dated Hefner for a couple of years, like I think 3 years, 4 years, something like that.
Hugh Hefner, you mean?
Yeah, what did I say? You
said David Hefner. I'm going, who's David Hefner?
Oh my God, I'm still reeling from watching the movie.
I was like, huh? I read that she was in the magazine since she did some covers from 69 to 71, and then in 73 she got naked finally, and I'm sure she was with Hugh through that or whatever. I don't know. But it's like, oh, I'm Hugh Hefner's girlfriend. Oh, you're really?
Yeah.
And what about the other girlfriends that he has? The one that's in the magazine every month.
Yeah. Which number are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Like every other one that's on the centerfold, that's his girlfriend too, It's like, come on, lady. But, she's cute and she's nice and she's still around. So,
Yeah, she got married, 2 kids and retired. And I saw a photo of her from like 2022.
She looks okay
She still looks good, and I think she's older than us.
She's 74.
She's 74?
She's 74, yeah.
She looks good.
Yeah, she looks good, yeah. But at any rate, this was like her big starring role. I'm just trying to figure out who the hell thought to put Klaus Kinski in a comedy. I mean, he was okay, but it's like he's such a creepy guy,
Well,
but,
yeah, he kind of looked like a real creepy. He played a creepy guy, and he looked like a creepy guy. I know if you look at the people who would visit the Playboy Mansion, it's a weird list of celebrities, famous and not famous at all, and people you wouldn't think would go there, and it's like, oh, okay, you see like Pat Boone there, like, what the hell's Pat Boone doing at the Playboy Mansion? Or Bill Dana, like all these weird people, as a weird conglomerate. What is the Pope doing here?
Yeah, really, what's the Pope doing? It's like, yeah, it was a weird thing or whatever, and there was 2 of them. There was a Hollywood and there was a Chicago man. The Chicago was the first one, I think.
Yeah, the Chicago club. I think there was one in New York too. If I'm not mistaken.
Probably when it was but they had Playboy clubs all through. There used to be a Playboy club in Miami. I never went in, but I saw it. It was on Biscayne Boulevard. I knew a guy who used to come into the comic shop, and he said he got the key, so he got in. So it's like, oh, cool. But I think that was done like by the 80s and the early 80s. It was over with. But it was.
When Playboy came out, it was supposed to be really sophisticated and.
It was kind of writing and stuff.
And a lot of political things and really in-depth interviews and.
Yeah.
They kind of pushed the boundary. They had great cartoons that were fun.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like the modern man kind of thing. And then like I said, by the 80s, that was starting to become old hat. And
Playboy was good when it was that big fat magazine, you know. It was when they became like a thinner kind of style with a square bound. Then it started going downhill. I mean, the girls were always pretty, but it was not the same anymore, you know.
No,
I mean, and who the hell read the articles anyway, you know?
Well,
I mean, maybe I read a couple, you know.
According
Maybe
to my brother, when my mom found his books, he did.
Oh, well, there you go. He's the guy.
I can remember my mom finding the book, and she's like, oh, and she'd go through each page, ripping it out, ripping it up. Oh, my God.
No.
And then she came up and confronted my brother, and he's like, well, I read it for the articles. There's no way you have to hide it. Well, I don't want Ronnie to find it.
Well, here's an even worse one for you. I found out later on in life that I forgot what the conversation came about. What it was about my mother, and she said I don't know how this came up, but she goes, you know, one time when you were gone, me and your dad looked through your videos and we found some of your pornos, and I'm like, what?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm like, what? She goes, why'd you do that? I go, I don't know. Your dad was just looking through it. I'm going like, oh, well, he's, you know, what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah. That time, what are you
do? It's like they never found my Playboy stash, but they found
your videos.
The videos, you know, and I'm like, okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, you know what I mean?
Well,
you know,
son's a man, I guess.
I hope you didn't watch them.
Oh, can you imagine? Oh God.
Oh yeah, the horrors. Oh, the pain.
Erase from the mind. Erase from the
Erase.
mind.
Yeah, exactly. You know, exactly. You know, yeah. Anyway, The Naughty Cheerleader, starring Barbie Benton and a cast of thousands. Hey, Ed Begley Jr. was supposed to be in this movie.
The bellboy and the cat.
Did you see him? I didn't see him. I must have blacked out. Oh, okay.
Real quick. He's like, he knocked on the door and stuck his head in, and it was a weird position, so you couldn't recognize him. And then he dropped the bottle of vodka, I think it was, and he looks up and he goes, oop, and then I recognized him more from his voice than he goes, is that? It must have been his first role.
It must have been, yeah. He's another weird guy. You know, he was on the Howie Mandel podcast, and he had some weird stories about how, like, he didn't have run-ins with murderers, but he knew Manson and he knew other weird people. But I guess you living in L.A., of course you're going to be like, have connection with, you know,
weirdos.
He didn't know, actually he didn't know Manson, but he stayed at the house where the killings were because it was sold again to somebody. He played cards there, and I think something happened where it was like, hey, you know where you're at? Yeah, this is where the Manson, you know, I think that's what the story was. Anyway, you have to watch the Howie Mandel podcast to figure it out. Anyway, the Naughty Cheerleader, this movie, you know, I'm thinking this is going to be, you know, like, and it does have a scene where she is a cheerleader, so I guess that's where they got. This movie starts out with her talking to some rich Italian guy in bed, and she's for some reason she starts telling her story or whatever.
Yeah,
you find out at the end why.
I think he asked her, like, what's a nice girl like you, or how'd you get in this business, or something like that. And then she's telling him the story, and then
you get to flashbacks or whatever, and then she narrates this movie because obviously you need somebody to tell you what's going on, because if it's hard to figure out if you're not, you know. But
so, like, she lives in a small town in Scranton with her German accent. She's got a German
boyfriend, Ronnie.
She was like, and her parents. She was 16, and her parents treated her like she was a little kid. They bought her a bicycle.
The night after she got, I
think she turned 17. They got her a bicycle, and then she liked her boyfriend, but he had no sex appeal.
Yeah,
she liked the bad boy, the guy who had the bike.
Yeah, Nick or something like that. Yeah.
But then Nick starts noticing her, invites her boyfriend to a party.
Right.
And then he's Nick is hitting on Barbie, and then so the boyfriend goes and starts necking and having sex with
another girl.
But then the motorcycle Nick takes her out and puts her on the motorcycle. Then he starts driving away, and then he undoes his pants and then pulls her around while they're driving.
This is a move, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home, kids.
He's smooth. And then they start having sex on the bike, and she's going, "Oh, Nick, I love you, I love you." Oh, so then they start dating. And
of course, you don't see anything, by the way. This is all implied. You just see them riding the bike, and she's like,
writhing around and
shouting,
"I love you." So they're become a hot item.
And this is the first time she's had sex.
Yes, yeah.
So she's crying afterwards, and then that's when you're talking about how the next day the parents, it's your 17th birthday, we got you a bicycle. Meanwhile,
she's crying some more. So anyway, she wants to marry Nick. So she tells Nick they're on the motorcycle. She brings up, let's get married because I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby, and he's like, no way, man. You must be somebody else. Blame it on the other guys you date. And she's like, oh, I only date you. I only love you. And he ends up riding off and leaving.
She broke up with Ronnie, too, before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she gave back.
Yeah, she probably with German Ronnie. So the guy dumps her.
Nick dumps her. So then she goes home. She packs her bags, and she's running away to New York before she starts showing. She ends up in the Catskills, and she becomes a waitress at a hotel. And all the old men, patrons, and maitre d', they're hitting on her. And then the maitre d' takes her out on a boat, and he's trying his moves on her and pulling her clothes off. And so she jumps in the water, and the maitre d's standing there in his underpants, calling her back, and then he falls over in the water. So then she gets on a bus to New York. Yeah.
That's when she meets the admiral, right?
Yeah. And so he has sex with her. Well, he asks
for $100. That's the first time
Yeah. And then, so she's all right. And she says, well, we can't do it now. When we get to the city, she's like, no, let's do it now. And so they do it now. And then she's getting off the bus, and he goes to her, how did a nice girl like you get in this profession or something? And she starts yelling at him and whatever.
Yeah.
So she's in New York, and she's going to a university looking for
a guy that's going to be like a marrying type.
Yeah. And she sees all these handsome graduate men, or these men walk by and stuff. And then her stomach starts hurting, and they call an ambulance, and she lost the baby. She had a miscarriage.
And she falls for the doctor, too, but the doctor tells her, no, I'm married.
Falls for the doctor. He was nice to her. He's worried about her, so she fell in love with him. And then he comes in and tells her, well, you came in, you seemed suicidal, so I was nice to you, and I, made it look like I was interested in you, but actually I'm happily married and I love my wife. So she yells at him to get out and stuff. And then she goes up to Boston. Is that where she goes after that?
Yeah. I thought she went back to Philly, but it could be Boston. And then she tries to get into modeling.
Yeah, then she goes to Philly, and she's waitressing, and they're doing all sorts of odd jobs. And then nothing was happening there, so then she takes the bus to Boston.
And then and then there's a scene where she's like, these two like old guys, she comes in a bikini, and they're telling her to take her top off, and she gets pissed off and splits or whatever,
That was in New York, yeah.
Okay.
Going to Boston. So she goes to Boston, and she's an elevator operator in a building. And 3 guys come in, 2 of the record
executives, and one's a DJ or something.
Yeah, on TV.
And that's Jeff Cooper, the actor Jeff Cooper, DJ. Yeah, like a Dick Clark kind of guy.
Like a Dick Clark kind of guy.
Yeah.
In Boston. And so they're arguing, and then one guy takes his gun out and shoots the other guy in the foot or the leg or something. I don't know. It's a big hullabaloo and stuff. So then they...
So then it becomes like the one guy who she talks to in the elevator. What I didn't understand it, but he tries to scam some deal with her where he goes, look, we'll start a record company, we'll make you a partner, but we got to blackmail the DJ in order to get our records played so we can make money. Is that what was the deal?
Yeah, that was the deal. Yeah, because she witnessed it, and he looked at her and noticed she was cute. And he had some intel on the DJ, and he knew that he was already on the take with another company. So what they gave her a quarter of the record company, and they got her to get him in the compromising position in the backseat of a car.
Drive-in.
So they take photos, and because she's 17 at the time, you know, it's illegal and stuff. So they blackmailed the DJ into joining the record, becoming another partner in the record company. So then with the DJ starts playing the records on his television show, and the company becomes really
because
successful. And then Barbie Benton starts trying to act all suave and stuff, and she comes in like she's some rich fashion plate, and the three guys.
Well, she's part of the company. She's a quarter of the company.
She's a quarter of the company, and the three guys are like, well, you know, we kind of looked at, you know, I'm finding the talent, the other guy's, you know, doing the distribution, and this guy's playing them on the air. You don't really do anything, and now that you turned 18, you know, we don't have any use for you. So they kind of maneuver her out and kick her out, and then she.
But basically, they're saying like, you know, we used you for was to be like a prostitute to get this guy in trouble. Now we don't have any use for you because we would rather just cut the expenses, take the money, three of us, than have to pay you for basically just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Real nice.
Yeah. So then she takes her money and goes down to Miami.
Which wasn't much money, right? I mean, $6,000
back then I think it was worth a lot more.
Yeah, sure.
I think back then, like, a yearly salary was like $2,000.
Yeah. So maybe like, you know, you could probably buy a little house for $6,000.
That's all? Man, that wouldn't get you from like New York to Washington, probably.
No.
But anyway, so she goes down to Miami. There's a beauty contest down there, Miss World or whatever, and she's mistaken for Miss Luxembourg. And then
is that? See, I didn't get that part while everybody was jumping all over her.
Yeah, they thought
in the car because it was like, why is she famous or something? Oh, yeah, I knew that Klaus Kinski wanted her to play Miss Luxembourg, but that's it. So they were mistaking her for Miss Luxembourg.
They were mistaking her for one of the contestants, Miss Luxembourg. So then
Kinski's there watching it.
Yeah, he sees this and he goes, "Oh, okay, he has a plan. What it is she's going to pose as Miss Luxembourg and then sleep with all these rich guys." And they're going to split the profits, and she's going to make like $3,000 a day or something like that. So she goes in and she's meeting various men, and you see some funny
foreign dignitaries and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's one scene where some guy he's got a bet on a baseball game, so instead of having sex with her, he's watching the baseball game.
Yeah.
You know, kind of goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
Broderick Crawford comes in. He's a big oil taxman. Call him BJ. That's what he kept saying.
Yeah.
He's got his son who's all shy and skinny. And he's like, you know, I'm going to, instead of buying him another car or whatever, I'm going to buy him a girl because he's, you know, he needs to become a man. So she brings him into the bedroom and they have sex.
And he's real happy afterwards.
Comes out. He's all swaggering like a rooster.
So they're supposed to have made all this money.
Right. And then another guy comes out of another room, and the boy's wearing a Miss Luxembourg sash that the beauty contestants wear. And then another old guy comes out of another room, and he's got the same sash on that says Miss Luxembourg. And it turns out Klaus Kinski not only had Barbie Benton playing Miss Luxembourg, but he had another girl playing Miss Luxembourg, too. So then they got caught in the scam, so they flee to
Luxembourg.
Well, I don't think they go. I thought they went to
Luxembourg, right?
They went to Luxembourg or Germany, I thought.
Germany, whatever. Some German.
Yeah, so they went somewhere. And so or was that Italy they went to? No, I think they went to Italy.
Okay.
And then that's where they're on the plane, and that they see Hugh Hefner sitting in the front.
Yeah, and that was just like added footage just to stick him in the movie or whatever.
Yeah, and so then he when he comes out onto the steps that go down from Hefner comes down and he's waving to the photographers. Klaus Kinski pushes Barbie Benton out, and then she's waving behind him. So it looks like they're kind of together. And then he has Barbie Benton walking up and down the street, and hoping that
yeah, that's right. That somebody attracting attention or whatever.
Yeah, just to attract attention. So some photographer takes a picture of her. She's an up and coming starlet. And then Klaus Kinski starts pimping her out to these rich
producers and directors and all that.
Those guys were really producers. I think he just said they were so that she would sleep with them. So then, I think both times, like in Florida, when they were doing that Miss Luxembourg in Florida, he gambled away all their money.
Yeah, at the Highlight, she says, "Where's our money? I want to get out of this." And he's like, "Well, I lost it all. It was like $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever. Yeah. I had a tip on a horse in Hialeah and I lost it or something." Yeah.
So it's the same thing starts happening in Italy. So then she meets a real film director who wants to use her in the film. And she's there dressed like Cleopatra or whatever. And the cinematographer is complaining that she doesn't look Italian enough. So the producer goes, he says, "You don't look Italian enough. So you're gonna have to take your clothes off to look."
Yeah, right.
So then she goes, "No, I refuse to." And for some reason, this count's son or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And his father's a multi-millionaire.
Gino or something.
Yeah, Gino. And she goes, "Fine." And he goes, "Finally, someone who will say no." So they start dating really quick, and then they fall in love, and he asks her to marry her, and she's all happy. And Klaus Kinski's there saying, "If you want to marry this guy, you're going to have to give me $50,000, or tell him what you've been doing." So then, it's the wedding day, and
I'm surprised you understood that because I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So it was a scam. Okay, I thought he would. I thought they were trying to scam $50,000 out of him, and then she would divorce him or whatever. Oh, okay.
No, he was trying to get $50,000 from her or from Gino and through her.
So
that he wouldn't tell Gino what she did.
What's going on? Yeah.
Right. So then there's a wedding, and at the reception, they're like, "Well, it's time for us to go." So her and the husband.
They go to Monaco.
Yeah, they're in Monaco, and
he loses money. My aunt gives him like $20,000 or something.
Yeah,
and he loses it at the crap tables or something.
Yeah, so like Klaus Kinski goes, "Where's the money?" And she's like, "Oh, well, his father disinherited him, so there is no money. So goodbye." So then, then they go to Monaco, and he bets all the money on gambling, loses it all. So then he goes out at night trying to get.
Well, they have to hitchhike back home. There's that scene where they're hitchhiking, but they don't want to get in any crappy car, so they have to get in a Rolls or something.
I'm royalty, so I can't.
Yeah, that's right. She's the countess now because he was the count or whatever. Yeah.
So they.
So then when they get back home, then it cuts back to I think this was the part where they cuts back to the scene at the beginning with her and the rich guy in bed, and he's telling her, "Wow, that's quite a story you have there." And he goes, "Well, I'll give you some money, Yeah. But in the meantime, I think Gino was like messing around with the other guy's wife, and she was giving him some money.
And they're next door, so you hear.
Gino, yeah.
So the guy's sitting in bed writing the check. He goes, "Oh, that sounds like my ex-wife." And she goes, "That sounds like Gino." So you hear fighting and stuff. So then the count, he writes out the check, hands it to her, and he gets out of bed. Then Gino comes in and he starts saying, "I'm going to kill you. How dare you sleep with my wife?" And he's waving around, and he drops the check, and the old Italian guy picks up the check and goes, "Oh, that's all she paid you? I knew my wife was cheap." Back to Barbie Benton, and then he leaves, and then I don't know, they start arguing and laughing, and then Gino and Barbie Benton are in bed rolling around laughing, and
that's the end.
Yep, and that's the end.
We've made this movie for you as painless as we could because trying to get through this is painful, you know. We made it simple, and Roddy made it simple and clear, because there's things that you said. I mean, I wrote notes, and there was things that I didn't, because of the language, because of Kinski's language, and that I just didn't, you know. I mean, I really needed Barbie Benton to explain every little detail of this movie to be able to understand it.
It was real choppy. I actually went to the German Wikipedia site for this movie.
Das Wikipedia?
Yeah, das was. And it's all in German. Then I used translate it into English. And then I actually had to edit it because some of the English didn't translate properly. And like when she was in Scranton, she's saying, you know, they said, Lynn lived in this bourgeois city of Scranton stuff. So it's like, what we do for our listeners.
Yes, the pain we go through just so you can enjoy our show and avoid some movies like this one. I mean, look, the copy that's on YouTube is kind of average.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little more painful. You know, I watched the nicer version of it, but it didn't help much. Again, a sex comedy with no nudity and just implied sex.
Yeah.
It's a bore. You know what I mean?
It was funny because it was also sort of like a little time capsule of the time period there.
Of swinging.
Yeah, just swinging 60s.
Swinging Europe, swinging 60s stuff. Yeah, no doubt. The hairstyles, the fashion.
The clothes, the cars, and the attitudes and stuff. I mean, everybody was smoking like they usually do. I forget how often people smoked. You know.
I mean, in those old movies, they're constantly smoking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they were advertising for cigarettes in every movie back then. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, there was movies made around this time. Maybe this was a little earlier. But I know for a fact that there was movies made around 70, 71 that were sex comedies that, like, quote unquote, delivered the goods. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the goods must be delivered in order for the sex comedy to be enjoyed. That's all I have to say about this.
Yeah.
You know, and the goods were not delivered. They were kind of being cutesy, is what I'm trying to say.
They were left on the loading ramp somewhere in Germany.
Yeah, you would imagine Germany, one of who makes some of the sleaziest movies.
Yeah, but maybe because it was Barbie Benton and
she was just starting out back then. You know, she wasn't adverse to taking her clothes off. I mean, you know, maybe she was then, but not later. You know, she was naked a lot in those magazines, but you know, whatever. You know, so. Yeah, I was kind of like worried about, wow, we're doing a sex comedy, but man, this thing was so tame, it's not even funny. Yeah. You know, I think like we talked about before, the girl that used to be on the New Zoo Review with the little miniskirt showed more than Barbie Benton did.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I was hoping for something, you know, but it's not even that. Hugh Hefner, come on, you know, nothing. Oh well. You know, c'est la vie, you know, carpe diem, all those other, you know, whatever. So, yeah, needless to say, I picked it, didn't like it. Don't advise you watch it, but, you know.
Now, the book is available on Amazon.
Is it available? You can buy this book. Is it a true story, supposedly?
Supposedly. I mean, she's supposedly a high-class hooker in Europe, or was. I don't know if she's still around.
But it wasn't really a cheerleader in Scranton that did all this.
That I don't know. I didn't read the book, but who knows?
Okay. Well, you know what? When you said that, it reminds me of like with those other movies later, the Happy Hooker movies. You know?
Yeah, it was Xavier Hollander, right?
Yeah, Xavier Hollander, which were, you know, sexier and delivered the goods, as they say, you know. But you know, but she wasn't a cheerleader that I know of. She was just a naughty lady, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And when I first saw a picture of her, I'm like, oh, because wasn't necessarily pretty.
No, but she delivered. Yeah, she put out, as they say. Now, you know what this movie reminded me of with Barbie Benton, the way she was acting and all that? Little Annie Fanny, which was a Playboy cartoon, because she was kind of like a naive girl, And she was like, I guess at some point she realized what she was doing, and when she said to Lionel, "Go get Lionel Standard, well, give me $100," and at that point, I guess she was a vet, but she was kind of like a naive girl for the most part, just acting kind of funny and goofy and silly. So it was kind of like an Annie Fanny kind of thing or whatever. But Annie Fanny, the cartoon, had nudity in it, so Let me not harp so much on the word nudity, but we'll just leave it at that. There are famous people in this movie, well-known actors. I mean,
bit actors who played bit parts and here and there.
Yeah, there was another actor in there, and I can't remember what his name, but he was a guy who was a horror actor in Germany, and he was in a couple of Barbara Steele movies, and I can't remember his name right now, but he was the director, one of the directors anyway, the real director at the end. I forgot his name.
Tremble.
No. There was the actor. It was I'll put his picture on the timeline, and I'll mention him. Yeah, he did a bunch of movies in Europe back then. So but yeah, I mean, when you look at the Wikipedia, it says West Germany. So I guess they were the ones who funded the money.
Yeah, I think so. West Germany was, and probably some Italy.
And America, I would imagine, because they brought in.
Put in some money. I don't know.
Yeah, he would have, because that's why he was in the movie. Probably he put in a few bucks or something like that.
Doing his Alfred Hitchcock impersonation.
Yeah, I thought maybe he would say something, but I'm sure that was just stock footage or something, or maybe. Oh, you know what? Maybe he was with Barbie Benton and they decided to shoot that scene, because I think they were already like dating, quote unquote.
So maybe he was just behind the scenes dating her, and
he was flying around with her, and he said, "Yeah, I'll be in a scene, for the movie or whatever." I'm trying to think if there was any other cameos in it, but I can't think. There was another guy. He was one of the record executive guys, and I remember him from television too, but I can't think of his name right.
Guy, right?
The older guy.
Yeah, the older guy. Yeah, I see Ivor
Cutler or Ivor something like that. Not Ivor Cutler, no. Yeah, not Ivor Francis.
Something like that. I mean.
Yeah, him I recognize from
he's been a lot
Happy Days and all that stuff or whatever.
He's been in westerns and cop shows, and he's a good player from.
Lionel Stander was in what was that TV show? Heart to Heart. Yeah.
Heart to Heart.
Yeah. So that's where I remember him from. But he was already. I mean, I'm sure he was like. I'm sure he was doing movies in the 40s, but I just remember him as an older gent or whatever, and he was in Heart to Heart as like there.
He looked a little more handsome in the 40s. He was thinner. I don't know if he still had that gravelly voice.
Well, the same thing with Broderick Crawford.
Yeah, Broderick Crawford.
I mean, him I know from whatchamacallit, what was that, Highway Patrol or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up
a lot of television shows and movies. So
he did movies in Europe too.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, these guys had to go in and they had to go make a buck. They weren't like these guys that are getting paid like zillions of dollars or whatever. These were working guys. That made. They actually had to make crappy movies just to make a living.
Stay in the Actors Guild, get a paycheck, and
that's it too.
Just that.
Just keep the insurance going or whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah, because just to see somebody in the movies or on television doesn't necessarily mean they have a lot of money. No,
they were just character actors.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the stuff that guys like Karloff didn't need the money, but they liked to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they would do substandard movies just so they could, because they were bored. Probably because they were bored at home.
They would, come in and it's film like 3 or 4 days.
Make a few grand.
Easy schedule, and you would, and then they would cut the scenes throughout the movie, like this one with the Terror with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
he was in it, but Karloff was in it, but I don't think a lot. So I think
you know what the deal was with that movie. He owed Roger Corman some time. So Roger Corman quickly devised a movie to stick him in. And that was The Terror, you know, and that movie's a mess.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it was directed by, oh God, I think Nicholson directed some of it, Coppola directed some of it. I don't know. It is what it is, you know what I mean? But,
it is, for a late Friday night movie after a hard week of work, it's fun. You know, you're sitting there with pizza and the beer. It's a fine movie. It's okay. You're not going to follow it anyway. You're going to be half asleep halfway through.
okay, Paul Muller was the guy I was talking about, who was in Barbara Steele movies, a director. He was in also a lot of stuff in, European stuff or whatever. But I'm trying to find the guy that was one of the record guys, and I can't find him on the listing here. You know, the record, the guy who we know who he is. Yeah. Oh well, whatever. You know, I can go on and on and on, but this movie's not worth it. Yeah, I can go on looking for people and telling you all these facts, but you know, it's just a waste of time or whatever. Yeah. But you know, you can't win them all. And I'm sure the next one's going to be a lot better because you're picking it. You're picking
stunning and awesome and wicked and cool
and scary and creepy and you know. That's because I'm not picking it this week. You are, so
okay.
You know.
I'll look for something.
Yeah. With some oomph. Yeah, with some with some
something
boobs. With some boobs. Real ones. Nah, just kidding. All right, well, that's it.
And watch monster boobs.
Oh God, yeah, there's plenty of those. Anyway, oh, okay, and so anyway, we'll be back next time with it's going to have to be a better movie than this. It can't be worse, or can it?
Oh, don't challenge me.
Because you remember on the other show that I was on, we used to challenge each other to find the worst movie, and I'm not doing that anymore, you know.
No, we'll find something good to watch.
Because I remember we used to have the challenge, me and Mao, which is the worst movie, you know, whoever picks the worst one wins, and I was always picking the worst one, so he just got so angry that he said, okay, fine, you know what I'm going to pick for you? Twilight. And I go, you win. You win in advance. I don't even have to watch it. You already won. Are you happy now? You win. And I watched 20 minutes of it, and after I stopped puking, I said, okay, I'm done.
No man should go through that.
It's like, for a guy to watch a Twilight movie is like getting, a vasectomy or something like that. You know what I mean? Or even worse. But anyway, whatever. They have their fans, so.
Okay.
Oh. What's next? I don't know. You know what's next? Tell us what we got to do in the meantime, Roddy. While we're waiting for the next show.
While you're waiting for the next show, in the meantime, watch more B-movies.
And try to watch some good ones too, not the naughty Actually, watch Revenge of the Cheerleaders or the Cheerleaders or, you know, anything with cheerleader except this movie. The end.